even your heart to someone, only to feel that they did not value it. This feeling of being unseen, of being unappreciated, touches almost every human life. But what if I told you that true peace is not found in being valued? Compassion without expectation is one of the deepest and most liberating practices on the path of peace. It teaches us to give, to support, and to extend kindness without binding ourselves to the outcome of how others respond. People often help because they hope to be recognized, praised, or thanked. When those signs of appreciation do not arrive, disappointment sets in, and the heart begins to question whether the act of kindness was even worth it. It is free from the need for any return, and it flows naturally, like the river that nourishes the earth without asking for gratitude from the trees or the soil. To understand this more deeply, the mind always seeking, always seeking, nation, always wanting others to see and acknowledge its efforts. This desire arises from attachment to self, from the need to feel important or to secure a place in the hearts of others. Value goes all satisfied, but when they do not, our ego feels wounded. Without expectation is a way to transcend the cycle of satisfaction and pain. It is about shifting the focus away from the self and toward the purity of the action itself. The joy lies not in hearing words of thanks, but in knowing that our action was rooted in sincerity. Imagine the sun. It rises each day, giving warmth and light to the world. It does not select who to shine upon, to praise it, even if clouds cover its light or people take it for granted. The sun continues to shine without hesitation. Compassion without expectation is like this. It is radiant and constant, unaffected by the behavior of others. The heart becomes vast, free from the chains of disappointment, and filled with a deeper joy that does not depend on the shifting moods of the world. Many people hold the belief that if they give love, kindness, or support, while this may seem fair in worldly terms, it often leads to suffering because life rarely moves in perfect balance. At times you may help someone in their darkest hour, but when your own time of need arrives, if you cling to the idea that your compassion must be acknowledged, you will feel bitterness and resentment. But if you understand compassion as an expression of your own inner goodness, you will never feel cheated. The act itself is enough. Vows it or not, your heart remains at peace. It is also important to recognize that not everyone has the capacity to show gratitude. Some people are burdened with their own pain, their own ignorance, or their own struggles. Not out of malice, but out of blindness. If we help only those who will thank us, then our compassion becomes a transaction. But when we help even those who cannot or will not appreciate it, then our compassion becomes pure and becomes an expression of true wisdom. Compassion without expectation also protects us from pride. If every act of kindness brings recognition, there is a danger that we begin to help only to feed our ego, to hear the applause of others. And instead of serving from love, we serve from the desire to be admired. But when we give without expectation, we dissolve this pride. We learn to act quietly, with humility, content to know that what we have done carries its own beauty. The greatest freedom comes when compassion flows naturally, without conditions, without bargaining, and without demand. When you give in this way, your heart expands, your burdens lessen, and your spirit becomes calm. You no longer live in those judgments, but in the light of your own sincerity, then is not about changing the world or controlling the responses of others. In a vessel of kindness that is unshaken by neglect and not by ingratitude, this is why compassion without expectation is such a powerful practice. It allows us to love without chains, to give without fear. It transforms ordinary acts of kindness into sacred offerings, free from the stains of selfishness. And in this freedom, the giver finds the deepest form of peace. But the nature of gratitude is delicate, complex, and deeply tied to the way human beings perceive kindness. When we offer help to others, there is often a quiet hope in our hearts that they will appreciate what we have done. For gratitude feels like a confirmation that our efforts were meaningful. Yet, if we look closely, we see that clinging to the expectation of gratitude binds us to disappointment. Gratitude is not something we can demand from others. We are handing over control of our inner state to the unpredictable responses of the world. Gratitude itself is a beautiful quality. When it arises naturally in someone, it nourishes relationships, strengthens bonds, but gratitude cannot be forced. If someone thanks you because they feel obliged, the words lose their sincerity. True gratitude flows freely from the heart, and just as it cannot be compelled, it also cannot always be expected. People vary greatly in that they recognize and express it. Some are quick to notice even the smallest act of kindness, while others, clouded by worry, pride, or ignorance, may not see the effort at all. If we anchor our happiness on whether others show gratitude, path for appreciation may or may not come. There are moments when we give our time, our energy, or even our resources to others only to be met with silence. In those moments, the mind often stirs with thoughts like, do they not care? These thoughts reveal how much we attach to recognition. But if we examine them deeply, we realize that the value of our help does not diminish simply because it goes unacknowledged. The kindness remains and the act still holds its purity. Gratitude is a gift when it arises, but it should not be the measure of the worth of our action. The absence of gratitude is also a teacher. It reflects the truth that not everyone carries the same awareness. Some people, when struggling, may be so absorbed that they cannot lift their eyes to see who extended a hand. Others may take help for granted because they feel entitled, believing that assistance is something owed to them. The next challenge, that they quickly forget what has been done for them. When we encounter such responses, instead of falling into resentment, we can use them as reminders of impermanence. Just as joy and sorrow rise and fade, so too does appreciation. Tov, gratitude, also brings us closer to compassion. When we realize that people often fail to express thanks because of their own blindness or burdens, we begin to see their shortcomings not with anger, but with patience. In this way, for deeper understanding, we learn not to expect others to meet us with the response we desire, but to give freely, knowing that the act itself carries its own completeness. By shifting our focus inward, if we discover freedom that gratitude alone cannot provide. At the same time, it is helpful to reflect on our own lives. How many times have we overlooked the kindness of others, fully expressing thanks. To recognize this is to cultivate humility. It reminds us that ingratitude is not only found in others, but exists within us as well. This recognition softens the heart to value our help are not so different from ourselves. We too forget, we too overlook, we too fall short. This shared imperfection is part of being human. Gratitude, when it appears, is like a flower that blossoms unexpectedly. It adds beauty, but it is not something we can control. We will suffer when it does not come. If we allow it to arrive naturally, we can enjoy it as a blessing without becoming dependent on it. This is the true nature of gratitude. It is a fleeting gift. To understand this is to find balance, to give without tying our happiness to the uncertain response of others, and to see appreciation as something arises but not essential for the peace of our own hearts. One of the most important lessons a person can embrace when walking the path of truth and compassion. Human beings often measure their worth through the eyes of others. We seek approval, appreciation, and acknowledgement, believing that others recognize it. This constant desire for validation, however, becomes a chain around the heart. It ties our sense of peace to something unstable, something that is always shifting. Outer validation can be present one day and absent the next. State of mind will always rise and fall depending on how others treat us. The search for outer validation comes from a deep-rooted need to be seen. From childhood, people are conditioned to seek praise, to look for approval from parents, teachers. While recognition can bring temporary comfort, it cannot provide lasting satisfaction. The more we chase it, the more depending like a thirsty traveler who drinks salt water. No matter how much we receive, the thirst only grows stronger. It is not dependent on outside voices. It arises from the clarity of intention, from knowing that one's actions are guided by sincerity and compassion, regardless of whether they are noticed. The efforts of a person go unseen. Someone may work tirelessly, sacrificing comfort and energy to ease another's burden, yet no acknowledgement is given. If the mind is attached to validation, disappointment follows and resentment grows. In inner peace, there is no disturbance. The person knows that the worth of their action lies not in recognition, but in the truthfulness of the heart behind it. A good deed remains good even if no one speaks of it, if it goes unnoticed. Consider the example of a tree standing silently in a field. It offers shade to travelers, fruits to the hungry, and shelter to birds. Yet the tree does not ask for praise by being what it is. Whether someone thanks the tree or ignores it, the tree continues to stand, giving selflessly. Inner peace is like the strength of that tree. It does not bend or break when the winds of criticism blow, when the sunlight of praise shines upon it. It remains steady, rooted in its own nature. Outer validation is fragile because it depends on the shifting perceptions of people. Today you may be celebrated for your kindness. If criticized or turn away, if your peace rests upon their changing views, your heart will never know stability. Inner peace, however, is built upon self-awareness. When you act from compassion, when you give without selfish motives, when you what is right, you no longer need the world to confirm your worth. You become free from the endless cycle of approval and rejection. This freedom also protects you from the pride that often accompanies praise. You may begin to help only for the sake of being admired. Compassion then becomes corrupted, transformed into a tool for self-image rather than a true expression of care. Inner peace frees you from this trap because it shifts the focus inward. A true judge of your actions is the sincerity within your own heart. Whether the world praises or criticizes, you remain untouched, walking steady with clarity and humility. It is not easy to turn away from the lure of outer validation, and its absence can feel like emptiness. Yet with practice, one learns that peace does not come from others' recognition, but from the stillness within. Just as a lake reflects the sky only when it is calm, the mind is free from disturbance of constant seeking. By letting go of the need for validation, the heart opens to a deeper joy, a joy that is not shaken by the ups and downs of life. In this way, inner peace becomes a shield against suffering when others do not value your help, and it prevents pride when they do. It allows you to act with freedom, to give with sincerity, and to live with balance. It does not come from the applause of others, but from the purity of intention and the quiet strength of a compassionate heart. Letting go of disappointment is an essential practice for those who wish to walk with peace and clarity in life. Meet the image we carried in our minds. We expect others to value our help, to recognize our sacrifices, to meet our kindness with gratitude. When this expectation is unmet, the heart feels a heavy weight. That weight is disappointment. It becomes resentment, bitterness, and sorrow. The path of wisdom teaches that disappointment is not caused by the actions of others alone, but by the clinging we have to how we believe things should be. Allowing it from this clinging, allowing it to rest in acceptance and compassion. When we help others, it is natural to hope they will respond with appreciation. But life does not always unfold according to our hopes. Some may forget, and some may even repay kindness with or criticism. The mind, if untrained, reacts to this with pain. It says, I gave so much, yet I received nothing in return. These thoughts deepen the wound of disappointment. Yet, we realize that the root of the suffering is not the absence of gratitude itself, but the attachment we held to receiving it. The moment we expected a particular response, we tied our peace to something outside our control. It does not mean being cold or indifferent. It does not mean we stop helping or close our hearts. Instead, it means we learn to act with sincerity, giving freely without tying our happiness to the reactions of others. Disappointment into an opportunity for growth. Each time someone fails to value our help, it becomes a lesson in patience, humility, and detachment. We are reminded that the worth of a compassionate act lies in the purity of the act itself. And our same friends, emotions, relationships, and circumstances are constantly changing. Just as joy fades, gratitude too can fade. Today someone may thank you deeply, and tomorrow they may forget. If you carry disappointment each time this happens, But when you learn to let go, you see that disappointment is like a passing cloud. It may cover the sky of your mind for a moment, but if you do not hold on to it, it will drift away, leaving clarity once again. This letting go is not weakness. It is the strength of to let the actions of others dictate your inner peace. There is also a hidden gift in disappointment. When people fail to value your help, they show you the truth of human nature. Not all hearts are equally awake. Some people live so deeply inside their own struggles as that they cannot see what has been done for them. Others may carry pride, which prevents them from acknowledging their dependence on another. If you take their lack of recognition personally, but if you see it as a reflection of their condition, compassion arises instead. You begin to understand that their ingratitude is not a judgment of your worth, but a limitation of their awareness. Also mean to forgive not only others, but also yourself. Sometimes disappointment arises because we regret our own choices, thinking we gave too much, trusted too quickly, or expected too strongly. So I should not have helped, or I was a fool to expect anything. This self-blame deepens the suffering. To let go is to forgive yourself, to see that helping was not a mistake, but an expression of your goodness. Erase the sincerity with which it was given. To release disappointment, one must represent moment. The past cannot be changed, and replaying it in the mind only tightens the chain of sorrow. By focusing on the present, you remember that you are free now, free to choose peace, free to give again without fear, free to walk without the heavy burden of unfulfilled expectations. Each act of letting go strengthens the spirit and downs of human behavior. When disappointment arises, instead of resisting it, allow yourself to observe it with calm awareness. Notice how it feels in the mind and body. Notice the thoughts it brings. By watching it without clinging, you weaken its hold over you. Slowly, you begin to realize that peace is not found in holding on, but in releasing. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes. Disappointment is an art. It is not achieved in a single moment, but cultivated through practice. Each time life does not unfold as you wished, you are given another chance to practice release. Each moment of letting go builds resilience. Disappointment loses its power, and in its place grows a quiet strength that no amount of neglect or ingratitude can shake. This is the freedom of a heart unbound by expectation, by the actions of others, but by its own capacity to let go. Life teaches us again and again that kindness does not always bring gratitude, and help does not always bring recognition. Yet in the way of truth, when it is free from expectation, to give without attachment, to understand that gratitude may or may not arise, to rest in inner peace rather than in outer validation, when others fail to value us, as these are the foundations of a heart that is steady and free. The worth of our actions does not depend on the voices of others, but on the purity of our intention. And the tree gives fruit without demanding thanks. We too must learn to serve with humility and detachment. In this way, the absence of gratitude becomes not a burden, but a teacher, guiding us to greater patience, compassion, and wisdom. Discover a freedom beyond praise and blame, a joy beyond reckoning. True peace arises not from being valued, but from living with sincerity, compassion, and an open heart. This is the strength of one who gives without fear, loves without condition, and lets out